Slept On Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Paycheck takes 2 hours to watch and 2 minutes to forget.
Clearly, the whole cast was here simply to collect, yes, you guessed it, a paycheck.
You've seen Roadrunner cartoons with more suspense than this entirely predictable hash.
Blazingly stupid, punishingly dull.
If ever a movie title summed up a viewer's assessment of all those involved, it's this one.
Just more of the same old, lame old.
Let's just say 2003 was not Ben Affleck's best year.
You leave Paycheck feeling as if you've just watched a big budget version of a made-for-TV movie.
Paycheck is John Woo light.
Welcome to this week's episode of Slept On Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
I'm Grove Street.
For those who aren't familiar with the podcast, we only explore movies that are at or below 50% on both the critic score and the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. And we structure the podcast so that the first half is no spoilers. You can listen along if you haven't watched the movie yet. Pause for a break for you to go watch or rewatch the film, and then come back and learn a little bit more about the film. This week, we are getting into the 2003 classic Paycheck. We talked about this a little bit at the end of our last pod, but this was a movie neither of us had seen. And it was a bit of a gamble. And I can't imagine a gamble paying off any better than it did here. This movie was fantastic.
Yeah, you sent this trailer to me, and I had never heard of it. And then watched the trailer, saw the cast, and I just couldn't wait to watch it. And like you said, that gamble completely paid off. This was a really, really fun movie.
Yeah, it's one of those things I just can't believe I never watched it, because not only was it a fun movie, but it's the exact kind of movie I like to watch. So it made no sense that I hadn't seen it before.
Including some time travel aspects as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, let me get into the premise. The rotten premise. Michael Jennings is a top-notch reverse engineer. Corporations pay him to crack the secrets of their competitors' products. When the job is done, he has his memory of it erased. Rethrick, head of a company called Allcom, hires Jennings to reverse engineer a secret government device. After the job, Jennings wakes to find himself being chased by various agencies. He soon realizes that the fate of the entire world may be in his hands. Critics, 27%. Audience, 45%. It's another great premise.
This is one of the greatest premises I've ever heard for just a movie. And that's probably why the trailer was so great. You watch the trailer and you're like, I have to watch this.
Yep. Watch the trailer. You hear the premise, you see the cast, and yeah, you have to watch it.
Yeah. The trailer, the cast, and I guess the cast, we'll get into the cast a little bit, but the cast was really catching everyone at really interesting times in their career, which I guess we can get into a little bit in the background right now. First off, just on the premise, this was based on a 1953 short story by Philip K. Dick, which was also called Paycheck. He's written a whole bunch of stories that have been turned into movies. I think probably Blade Runner is the most famous movie that was based off of one of his stories. But yeah, I feel like all his stories had these sci-fi, futuristic elements. And this story was obviously just fantastic. It made $18.5 million its opening weekend, which was fifth its opening weekend, which is kind of shocking that a movie this good could come in fifth that opening weekend. Lord of the Rings, the third movie in the Lord of the Rings series, was still crushing at that point. So that one almost doesn't count. So it's kind of like it came in fourth, but it still came behind Cheaper by the Dozen, Cold Mountain, and Something's Gotta Give. It doesn't really make sense when you look back.
Movies.
But, I think it still, I think, made money as a film. So it did.
I think it was, I read $117 million on a $60 million budget.
Yeah. You're doubling up. You can't argue with that. But I think it probably just didn't have the legs that some people might have expected from this type of cast and this type of story. And just going through some of the cast, I mean, starting with the director. So John Woo directs the film. He had come up in Hong Kong and been this just epic director there, sort of very stylish, violent action films, comes over to the U.S. and just goes on a tear here on the U.S. for a while. Broken Arrow, Hard Target, Mission Impossible 2, Face Off, which is one of the greatest movies of all time in my mind. So you got him directing it. You got some of that style interspersed here. Then you get Affleck, already a 3-time Blockbuster Entertainment Awards winner. 1999 for Armageddon, supporting actor. 2000, he won for Forces of Nature, and 2001 for Bounce. So he's already collected 3 of the premier awards, as we know.
Yep, that's our number 1 award.
Paul Giamatti, I think he was still sort of coming into his own at this point. He wasn't really getting any of the big star roles. He did do American Splendor the same year in 2003 that came out a little bit before, which I think probably put him on the map for a lot of people because that was maybe his first big starring role. But he also had a Blockbuster Entertainment Award nomination under his belt at this point for Big Mama's House in 2001. He didn't win. He lost out to Benjamin Bratt for Miss Congeniality, which it's like anytime you're with Sandy, it's just got to set you up. And then you get Uma Thurman, who's obviously a massive star. Kill Bill had come out, Volume 1 had come out earlier that year. Also, Blockbuster Entertainment Award winner in 1998 for her role as Poison Ivy, Batman and Robin. And then you get Aaron Eckhart, who was, I feel like he was a star, but not a big star at that point. He'd been in Aaron Brockovich, but he wasn't sort of that action star that I think everyone would see him later on when he did Batman and that classic Two-Face character. One sort of interesting part about how this movie got made was that it originally the starring role was offered to Matt Damon, and Matt Damon turned it down because he sort of thought that he was doing too many Amnesia movies after he'd done the Bourne movies. So he says, I can't be the Amnesia guy. He calls up Affleck, says, look, this is a great script. John Woo's the director here. You should really check this out. The rest is history.
It's too bad he didn't lean into that. It would have been nice if he had a career arc for a few years where he was just the Amnesia guy.
The crazy thing, I was reading this, the original script for Good Will Hunting. Have you heard about this?
Nope.
That originally it was sort of the first half of the movie was what the movie is. It's sort of like character study about a bunch of guys growing up in Boston. And the second half was this whole NSA spy story where the government was trying to sort of get Will to be a government agent, and him and Chucky are just trying to dodge the government. And then they sold the script, and the folks over at Castle Rock came in, and Rob Reiner came out and said, look, this is 2 movies. You can't have both of these in one movie. This is ridiculous. You got to pick one. They went with what ended up becoming Good Will Hunting. But maybe you can see the seeds of Affleck wanting to do this kind of movie, which, isn't that far. He's on the run from sort of the government. They want to harness his brain power here. See some of those seeds there in the beginning part.
So this is sort of a Good Will Hunting part 2 that never was made. But that's funny. Like, I wonder if that scene in Good Will Hunting where he met with, I think, what was that, the CIA, and they wanted him to come aboard, and he talked about how dropping bombs over there, people he never met. I wonder if they added that scene in there. It's like a nod to the original script.
Totally. And you could kind of see how that could have taken a turn. Suddenly you're in this crazy NSA spy movie.
I think they made the right choice not going down that lane.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely made the right choice.
Do you want to get to Bolo?
Yeah. And I think this was one of the most fun Bolo movies I think we've ever done.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more.
One of these movies where every single little detail matters. Every detail comes back. And this was one of the things that made this movie so much fun to watch over and over again as we prepared for this. It's just every time I watched it, it got better and better as I kept noticing more and more little things. And, I feel like this Bolo could go on for like 2 hours.
Yeah, we're gonna have to censor our list here a bit because it absolutely can go on forever. All right, I'll start us off here. Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for the title line.
Love that. I'm going to say be on the lookout for 2 of the best chins in Hollywood.
Wow. Great chins in this movie. Be on the lookout for non-home row key using computer people in this movie. People who are supposedly really good at the computers, just pecking away.
I'm going to go with be on the lookout for a question mark. Not very subtle.
Nope. Be on the lookout for a Daredevil-esque bow workout scene.
I wonder if that'll be relevant.
I think it might.
I'm going to say be on the lookout for, this is a John Woo classic, but be on the lookout for a white dove.
I'll add another John Woo classic, which these are 2 cool things that have attributed to you. Mexican standoffs.
Got to have it. Absolutely got to have it. I'm going to say, and this is a perfect in a movie like this, but be on the lookout for a crystal ball.
Perfect. Be on the lookout for smoking a cigar like a cigarette.
It's a great one. I'm going to say be on the lookout for the third rail.
Be on the lookout for actors and actresses who've been a part of the Batman movie franchise.
You can't miss it in this film. It's wild.
There's quite a lot of them.
I'm going to say, and this was a surprising choice, but I'm going to say be on the lookout for Celsius.
Yeah, you have to do some conversions. Be on the lookout for Dexter.
Great one. Great one. Well, you might, and definitely be on the lookout, not on the listen out, because his voice is very different.
Very. Yep.
I'm going to say be on the lookout for a poorly designed fire alarm system.
This makes matters worse. Be on the lookout for Milosh's wife. Seinfeld.
That's a great one. I'm going to say be on the lookout, and this is maybe another nod to another classic film, a great injection gun.
Oh, it's a fantastic gun. Be on the lookout for shooting yourself in the foot.
Be on the lookout for a silver filling.
Very good. Be on the lookout for a flower shield.
Wouldn't think that would work. I'm going to say, and I don't know what these are called, but be on the lookout for Chinese stress balls. I'm sure they have a name. I don't know what it is, but
that works.
Keep your eyes peeled.
Yep. I think this might be, I think I have two more. Be on the lookout for a thrown helmet.
I'm going to say be on the lookout, and this one kind of drove me insane, but be on the lookout for the Red Sox batting at home in the top of the fifth inning.
That drove both of us crazy, that's for sure. I wish you didn't tell me about that while we were doing this. Be on the lookout for smoke and smoky floors.
Love that.
All right, let's get to a drink to pair with the movie. What would you suggest for this movie?
So this one, I have never yet watched a movie where there was such an obvious drink to pair with it that it was so easy.
Oh, this is great because I struggled, so I can't wait to hear this.
The mind eraser.
Oh, perfect. Yep.
I don't know if you've ever had a mind eraser. It's Kahlua vodka, club soda, and you drink it as fast as you can out of a straw, or preferably two straws when you're at a bar. Knock a couple of those back. And as the name says.
Well, I guess we're on the same page here. It's not a specific drink, but I said the drink to pair with this movie is tequila really fast so that you black out and still do stuff. And then you can put the pieces back together afterwards. So like you have tequila really fast, you wake up and you see this pizza box, someone else's clothes in your house, maybe a book of matches from somewhere. You kind of put the pieces back together again, put the movie back on where you last remember, and then go on from there and repeat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've all had those evenings.
All right, so this is the part of the podcast where you have your chance to go watch the movie for the first time or rewatch it, and we'll see you on this other side to break down the movie. Have some fun.
To understand how something works, you must first take it apart and unravel its secrets. Only then can you build something better.
Michael Jennings is the best reverse engineer in the business. What he's hired to create, he's paid to forget. But this time, the rules of the game have changed.
What you need to do is tell us everything that you did right now.
I can't! You wipe my memory.
And all he has are 19 pieces to a puzzle.
I just need to find out who sent these items.
Well, you did. Don't you remember doing that, sir?
He must solve to stay alive. From John Woo, the director of Face Off and Mission Impossible 2, and the author who brought us Blade Runner and Minority Report.
Our boy didn't give himself these items because he saw happily ever after.
Ben Affleck.
I saw my future, and I saw what I needed to change it.
Aaron Eckhart.
Michael Jennings is not a super agent. He's an engineer.
Uma Thurman.
Don't you have secrets?
I think I'm pretty good at keeping them.
What a fun time.
That was great. That was so great. And I feel like I can't recommend enough for everyone who's only watched it once to go back and watch it at least a second time. So I thought the second time was way better than the first time, and the third time better than the second time.
Absolutely. This movie is like a meal that's pretty good. And then you put it in the fridge and have it the next day, and it's even better somehow the next day. Like the more you watch this movie, the better it gets. I'm blown away that I didn't know this movie existed. Like this is a prime time of me working in a video store, stocking shelves and rewinding tapes and cleaning DVDs. And I don't remember this movie at all.
I guess when it comes out 5th in that opening weekend, it just gets buried.
All right, let's get to the draft. You have the first pick.
I have to take this. I'm going with the overall concept of the envelope of items. I just thought that whole concept of having this mysterious set of nothing items and that you slowly have to discover along with him was another one of those times where you as the movie watcher are experiencing the movie just like the character is. And you're trying to like, oh, I see what these items are. He knows what they are, but like neither of us can figure out what they are. And we're just going to figure it out together. And it was just, that whole thing was phenomenal.
This movie has what you often love, and what we both do actually, is like rewarding the careful movie viewer. We have a whole movie of figuring out where these little items are going to be used.
It was fantastic because you're watching, you're like, oh, I have all these ideas, and I'm sure you had the same thought when that extra stamp was on there. You're like, I just can't wait for that extra stamp to come back.
Absolutely. And it's an Einstein stamp. Like there's definitely something that has to do with that. So yeah, that was great.
Yeah, there was Philip K. Dick, the author of the original short story, had just a phenomenal little quotation about this story. And bear with me, it's a little long, but I think it's just a great little description of this. How much is a key to a bus locker worth? One day it's 25 cents, the next day thousands of dollars. In this story, I got to thinking that there are times in our lives when having a dime to make a phone call spells the difference between life and death. Keys, small change, maybe a theater ticket. How about a parking receipt for a Jaguar? All I had to do was link up this idea with time travel to see how the small and useless under the wise eyes of a time traveler might signify a great deal more. He would know when that dime might save your life. And back in the past again, he might prefer that dime to any amount of money, no matter how large. I mean, that's brilliant.
As proof that you stole my first overall pick here, I have that exact quote written down, ready to go. That is a great pick and a great pull from Philip K. Dick's story as well. So, I mean, reading that, reading his synopsis, or his idea for how he came up with the story, like I even get more into the story. That last part about like you choose a dime over any amount of money in the right time context because it's worth infinitely more.
It's brilliant. It's one of the greatest concepts for a story, a movie, anything I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's one of the best first picks we've had on this podcast so far. I guess I'm going to follow this up with just how much I enjoyed it. I know people would critique it, but I enjoyed it, even though it's a little Daredevil-esque. But the bow workout scene with Paul Giamatti timing the lights and hitting the green and the red, and then it's questioning if he's getting slower. All this being done in front of regular people at like a Planet Fitness on exercise bikes and slow walking treadmills, and just like you would think that this would be filmed in like, you know, a secluded area or like at least in the studio room of a gym. But no, they're right out in the open in front of everyone, screaming and hitting stuff with a bow.
And it's like, is Paul Giamatti his trainer there? If that guy is your trainer, like you're in some real problems. He's like the schlubbiest, pudgy, doughy looking guy at that point.
Yeah, he's the trainer / hype man, I think. And he's also keeping track to see if he's slowing down, to see if these memory erasing events are taxing him too much, I think. I think part of it's like to make sure that Ben Affleck is still himself.
Yeah, he's not getting too fried because it's going above 40 degrees Celsius. Like, why they chose Celsius in this? I thought that just like blew my mind. I had to pull it out and be like, all right, wait, what is this 40? What does that mean? I was like,
I think it's because most science is done in, you know, not using our system. It uses the metric system.
Like that's the like all right, this movie, the one thing that we're going to keep real is Celsius.
Yeah, as he couldn't type when he was putting in the information into the computer. My second pick, we've already talked about it, but this movie getting better the more times I watch it. The first time I watched it, I watched it with my wife, and she was like, "That's a terrible movie." And I was like, "I disagree, but I enjoyed it." And then just the more I watched it, the more excited I was, because like there's a lot going on in the movie, and you can kind of lose a little bit trying to put all the pieces together the first time you watch it. And then once you do put the pieces together, you can kind of enjoy it more. And that just kept happening. I think I ended up watching this movie 4 times because it was getting better and better and better the more I watched it.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way to make a movie when people can just keep watching it over and over and over again.
It seems like some people stopped with 1 and that was enough. But if you're able to push through to watch it again and again, it's really good. It pays off.
Yeah, I feel like I would like to dare everyone who gave this a bad review to watch it again and see if they don't reconsider.
I think it would at least be better than the first viewing for all of them.
I'm going to go for my second pick. What we don't see in the movie. I thought they made some great choices about what we didn't see as a viewer. Like, we didn't see any of him working on the machine. I don't really care. I mean, you easily could have seen just like 20 minutes burned on him working on some computer, plugging things in or whatever. Like, who cares? I don't care. Great move not to see it. And then they also don't really get into explaining how all this works in any sort of detail about what elements can you change and how does this impact things and when does that change the thing after that. You just kind of roll with it. And I think that's great. Some people try to pick that apart, like, oh, I want more explanation. Make it up yourself. I mean, this is,
fill it in yourself if you need to. Yep.
Yeah. And I thought there were some great choices on only showing us the stuff that really was the exciting part of the movie that pushed it forward, not getting bogged down in these insignificant details.
Yeah, they could have easily given us some like 5-minute montage of him working over that amount of time to perfect this machine. And they just said, nope, let's have him wake up.
Yep.
It's a great choice.
For my third pick, I am going to take meeting in a train station. Anytime in a movie where you're meeting someone in a train station, it's a great place to meet someone. It makes me want to meet people in a train station more frequently because it's not like an airport where it's like out of the way. A train station is usually in the middle of the city, but you can also it can be a launching pad to go anywhere, but there's always lots of people going around. I just love anytime you're a character in a movie or anything, they're meeting in a train station. I just think it's full of possibilities.
That's a great choice. My wife and I, we've had Celtics season tickets for a long time. And we used to, before we first started dating and stuff, we didn't live together. So we would meet before the Celtics game. And there was all these bars and restaurants to go to around the garden. And even though she wasn't excited about it, I would always want to meet at that, the North Station, the bar in the train station.
Oh yeah.
If you meet in the train station, she was like, there's so many choices. Why do we have to go get a bad IPA at this station? It's like, because we're meeting in a train station.
Yeah.
I was just excited.
Classic move.
Yeah, it was a great move. It's like you're there, you're looking around the corner. There's so many people walking by. When are they going to show up? Oh, that's not her. It's someone else that looks similar. It's just an exciting moment. So yeah, meeting in a train station is so much fun. It's a great pick. I guess I'm going to go along with your same theme there about things in movies, but I'm going to go with the authorities wanting the person they've been pursuing the whole movie to get away with it at the end. So the FBI was pursuing him, Jennings, the entire movie. And when they have a chance to tell their bosses oh no, he did survive and we know how to get him. The guy from Terminator 2 hid it. And they both knew what they were doing, the two detectives, and they let him go because they were on his side by the end of the movie. Whenever that happens in a movie, I absolutely love it.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the whole thing comes together and it's just everyone knows who's on the right side of history here all of a sudden.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to our sleeper round. This is a tough choice. I have a couple I'm going to choose from, but I'm going to go with the mechanical crane from Uma Thurman's lab. She was incredibly good at controlling it, and it popped in at the right time. It had popping sound effects. It was, whacking guys with bows, delivering flowers, handing the bow to Ben Affleck so he could finish the job.
Yeah, I feel like that was another one of those ones where early in the movie, you're like, of course this is going to come back into play later on. You said it over and over again. Every single thing comes back.
Such great control of everything going on in that lab, from the weather to the mechanical crane to being able to go easily up 5 stories high. It's just what a great control of the lab that she has there. But definitely the crane for my pick.
That's a great pick. And my sleeper pick, and maybe this is a deep, deep sleeper here, but it's
I
just
did just
a
pick
moment.
a crane, so let's see how much deeper you can go.
I'm just going to go for the moment when Affleck's getting interrogated for the first time. He's in the FBI interrogation chair, and the sort of mechanical straps all flip out, and he just goes, "What? Wait a second." It's like he's actually surprised by this whole thing, and it's just like it was totally the right reaction. It was the reaction I would have when I'm sitting there. I thought this is a regular chair, and all of a sudden straps are coming out. I just thought that, I don't know, that had me on the floor.
Yeah, that also tickled my funny bone as well. It was just like, typically they would just like pass over that or show that he's like a tough guy and it's not that big a deal to him, but he was just so caught off guard. Yeah, like you said, like as if the director didn't tell him this was going to happen.
Yeah, I just thought that was perfect.
Oh, that's a great sleeper pick. All right, what's our superlatives for this week?
This week, it's very specific to the movie. We're going best item in the envelope.
Best item in the envelope. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I will go, and this is another, it's a nod to the attentive viewer is what this pick is. But I'm going to go with smokeless cigarettes. And this is one where I feel like people would be watching this and they're seeing that scene in the interrogation room where the guy pulls out a cigarette and lights it up and then sets a smoke detector off. People are like, well, that was dumb. Why would this guy ever light a cigarette knowing that there's smoke detectors? But what you might not have noticed if you weren't paying attention was on the invoice list at the bank, it clearly says that these are smokeless cigarettes. So the guy sees their smokeless cigarettes, goes to light up a smokeless cigarette, which obviously exists in the future. And then, it happens to be a non-smokeless cigarette, and then there's the problems. So not a plot hole, a very intentionally designed part of the movie.
Yeah, I thought that was so well done. That was the first piece of the envelope that he used, I believe. My choice, it was just tough. I'll give my honorable mention after, but I'm going to go with the watch. The watch first showed that, no, man, this is your envelope. This watch fits you perfectly. And then that same watch was able to tell him in the exact moment to move, to dodge a bullet, which then killed his nemesis, that same bullet, and changed the course of time. So I'm going to go with that amazing watch that he was wearing.
Yeah, it's like the tan lines lined up too. That scene when they put the watch on, that was awesome.
Even he couldn't deny anymore. Like, oh yeah, that is my watch, man. Looks like I've been wearing it a lot too. And then I almost chose the fortune cookie because it was cool in the moment when all the numbers came out. And
I almost took that in one of my draft picks. I thought that scene, it was such a perfect way to explain to everyone, including the main character, what was going on without really saying much. It was perfect.
And then it came back at the end. And I don't know if there's much, like if you're watching a movie with a good ending, I think people should just toss a winning lottery ticket in at the end. It already, like, it just pushes up to another level. If you're kind of happy with them getting away with, that's one thing, but now they're rich. Like, if you just toss that into most movie endings, it's going to be good.
Yeah. No, I thought that was a great one. The only other honorable mention I had was the silver dollar, just because I love those Eisenhower silver dollars. The back of those is the coolest coin. Like, it's the coolest American coin, period. It's the Apollo 11 insignia, and it's the eagle holding onto the olive branch landing on the moon. And it's just so sick. Like, I have one because it's just so cool.
So maybe you wouldn't have given yourself one because you would have been so excited to keep it. You wouldn't have let it go to destroy the locking mechanism.
Right. I was like, maybe let's just like see if this quarter fits and hope the best.
One change to be a blockbuster. I'll go first here. Changing obviously the length. I think that's a huge part of movies is how long they are. This movie should have probably been closer to an hour and a half as opposed to closer to 2 hours. And the title, Paycheck. I mean, I guess he's doing it all for the money, but it kind of turns out he isn't. It doesn't seem like Paycheck would be the name. I have Time Voyeur. I feel like someone who just watches what's coming up in time would be a little bit better than Paycheck.
I feel like the word voyeur is maybe a bit misleading. I feel like there's I don't know. You might find yourself in a different section in the movie theater.
Yeah, that might be a different. I asked my wife before when I chose that, like, does it always have that connotation? And we weren't sure, so I threw it out there. So maybe I would have just Time Watcher or something like that, but not Paycheck.
Grab it from that room in the back behind the curtain. But yeah, no, that's a great point because the only thing that Paycheck did was it gave all the movie reviewers who wanted to give a bad review and just said it was a money grab. It gave them a chance to think they were clever with their reviews.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for my one change. So I think that the casting here was amazing. I think the cast overall was great, but I think they had people in the wrong roles. So I think you shuffle up some of the actors. Like Affleck, I think this was a right movie, wrong role for him. So I think you put Affleck in the villain role, because I think bad Affleck is one of the greatest Afflecks you can have. So you put Affleck in the villain role, and then you have Giamatti in the lead role. Because it was occurring to me, this type of job where you're going to disappear for 3 years or whatever, that's not a job for an attractive person.
No.
An attractive person in the prime of his life does not want to be locked in a hotel room for 3 years or whatever. But Paul Giamatti might be like, I'm going to make some bank here. I look like Paul Giamatti. I'm fine with that. So this, the main character he cannot be an attractive man. That just does not work. And then Eckhart, you can either make Eckhart the friend. You could make Eckhart the love interest. Maybe probably 2003 Hollywood wasn't ready for that. The roles of Uma Thurman and Eckhart, you can play with that. Do what you will. But I think making that one switch, that movie's fantastic.
Yeah, that changes everything. You bring up a good point about Ben Affleck. He's good looking, but it's just not the right role. I've always had this conversation with people. I don't know if you've gone out with a group of girls, or you talk to your wife and they talk about some guy being creepy at a bar. Some guy being creepy comes up to them and says hey, to kind of get you a drink. And they're like, oh, what a creep or whatever. Ben Affleck, in what he says in that line when he meets Uma Thurman, he is a creep. Let me just go over this dialogue here. Ben Affleck, when he sees Rachel Porter, who's Uma Thurman, hello, I'm Michael. She goes, I'm Rachel Porter. He's like, is that Miss or Mrs.? That would be Dr. Porter. Doctor? Well, excuse me, doctor. She laughs and says, it's all right. He goes, what kind of doctor are you? She says, I'm a biologist. He goes, really? Do you work for Jimmy? She nods, mm-hmm. And he says, so it must be very top secret biology that you practice. And she says with a sly look, oh, yes, isn't everything? And then he just goes, let's go. And so she goes, excuse me? And he says, I'm happy to continue blathering on and trying helplessly to charm you. But I thought maybe, cut to the chase and just, go somewhere. And that is incredibly creepy. But because he's so handsome, she's like, do you believe in second chances? I'm going to be over there and you can come talk to me. There's nobody else who can get away with that outside of someone with the chin of Ben Affleck, because that is so creepy and so forward in the wrong situation. But it's endearing because he's an attractive man.
Right. It's like Aaron Eckhart maybe gets away with it too, but that's about it.
That's about it. Paul Giamatti not getting away with that. He's getting reported to the local local cops.
Yeah, he's in jail. Creepy. They show up and then they just which one is it? That one? Oh,
that
definitely.
One.
Yep. We're here, bud.
He said, "Let's go to me. Arrest him."
Yeah, it's just I feel like I did have a hard time believing that he was the sort of most intelligent man in the world coming out of this.
This had me going down the rabbit hole of actors or actresses that were cast in a smart role that I just couldn't believe. So we have this. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Alone in the Dark. It's with Tara Reid, where they cast her as a really intelligent archaeologist, which to show her intelligence, all she does is play with her fake glasses the entire role.
That's a tough sell. I mean, usually glasses can do it, but Tara Reid, you need a couple pairs of glasses.
Tara Reid and Christian Slater, it didn't work out. Jerry O'Connell in Sliders. This is a great quote on this. Alternate realities seem plausible compared to the idea that Jerry O'Connell could discover them. Denise Richards as a nuclear physicist in The World Is Not Enough.
Mm-hmm.
She was somehow 27 in that role and a nuclear physicist.
Oh, Doogie Howser, it happens sometimes.
Fair enough. James Franco in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He came up with the serum that was able to make apes talk.
Yep.
And Mark Wahlberg in Transformers as an inventor. Just some roles that you just couldn't buy.
No, Wahlberg's always better in the sort of dumb guy that is affable.
Right. I saw in one of the reviews was the last part of the movie where Ben Affleck puts 2 bags of soil over his shoulders and walks into the room was the most believable acting that he did in this movie.
And it's always tough because people were casting those characters knowing that this is going against type, and they were trying to nail it. And there are times where you can do that and it ends up working out really well. Like I thought, like Sharon Stone, Basic Instinct. Usually you have the sort of blonde bombshell who's just going to be, the bimbo or whatever. And there she's the smartest person, in the world, just manipulating every single person in that entire movie. Like that, like flips it on its head. Similar to like Legally Blonde, you had like Elle Woods. Same with Tyrion Lannister, Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's a good one.
A small person. I guess I'm not sure what the appropriate terminology is these days, but a small person who's usually sort of cast as sort of like the butt of jokes in films and TV, where he's possibly the smartest person in that entire show.
Yep,
and so sometimes you get that casting against type that really works. But sometimes, as is the case here, it sort of falls on its face a little bit.
Or maybe Arnold and Jr. Thought that worked.
Yeah. I thought also the Affleck moment that like gave him away a little bit in this movie was when he was in the bank and he was trying to collect on some of his shares, and he goes, "What I'd like to do is get some money now and put the rest away for long term to live off. So how do we do that?" And I'm just like, come on, that is not what a smart person says. I don't care, maybe he's not money smart, he's science smart, but no, like he lost me at that point.
Yeah, you just reverse engineered and made a time machine. I think you would understand what to do with a couple bucks.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move off into spin-off ideas. What do you got?
So my spin-off idea is not very well developed, but my curiosity was so piqued by the scenes that we had in that lab with Uma Thurman when Affleck first shows up there. I just want a little bit of a prequel about everything that's going on in that lab. What's the deal with all those flowers? Why do you need to make these rainstorms? I don't know what it is, but it's a very top secret biology, and I'm sure it's awesome. So I'm sure there's a little bit of a prequel that sets that whole thing up.
Do you think it has anything to do with the impending nuclear war, and he wants to be able to have indoor environment that's under his control?
That's a great question. So because there's all these questions I had about this movie. I mean, it's one of these movies that makes you think, obviously. Do we know, had he seen the future? Did he know that? Or did only Affleck know that?
Yeah, I think only Affleck.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we even know. You kind of have to speculate. But yeah, I'd like to know what the purpose of all that was. The other thing that I didn't know, and watch this a number of times, in that vision he sees where somebody's falling at the end, and we think it's going to be Affleck, and then at the end it's not. The face on that body, you can never tell who that is, right? Like it's not Affleck falling, and it's also not Eckhart falling. It's like a combination person, I feel. Yeah,
it kind of shows you that it could be anyway. You assume that it's Affleck because it's so quick, and we're always talking about Affleck dying up there in the catwalk, so you don't look into it too hard. But yeah, it could easily be either one of them. All right, mine. My spinoff idea is we're years into the future, and Ben Affleck wakes up with Uma Thurman and their kids gone, and an envelope next to his nightstand. It happened again. The last thing he remembers is going to bed after a great family day, and now he has to use this envelope of 20 items to get his family back.
That's great.
Yeah, let's run it back.
I mean, give me the envelope every time. I feel like I could watch something with an envelope and these mysterious items. I could watch this every day of the week.
Yeah, I think maybe even Envelope as the name of this movie would have worked better than Paycheck.
You could have this could be a series. You could put this on. It could be run it 20 times a year. Just give me some objects. Let me figure out what happens.
Yeah, I would definitely watch that Netflix series.
It could even be a game show. Here's your 20 objects in an envelope, and all this crazy shit's going to happen to you, and have at it.
Yep, you have to reverse engineer your way to the grand prize.
Yeah.
All right, so next week or next episode, I think we're doing Femme Fatale, which is a movie I know next to nothing about.
Yeah, I don't know much. I haven't seen it in a very long time. But I'm excited to watch it. It's another De Palma movie, so we know we're going to be entertained. So
yeah, I can't wait. The last De Palma one was Snake Eyes, right?
Yeah,
that was great. All right, this was a lot of fun. Great movie. Might go back and watch it a few more times because it just keeps getting better. But take care. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, later.
Later.